FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Hello and welcome. Live from Studio 5, it's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Paul Brecht, joined in studio by our do-it-all board operator, Michael Liscaro. And not in studio, but still in the den via the HSRN airwaves, Ku'ule Agbayani is live from Las Vegas with us. Ku had a crazy weekend of college football that we'll get to hear all about as she went from Hawai'i to the 9th island in time for an insane game between a pair of top 25 ranked schools in USC and LSU. We'll get into that and so much more in an absolutely packed weekend here today on Wake Up in the Den. Lots of football in the first of 2 hours here on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Hello if you are tuning in on there. We appreciate you and all of our listeners for tuning in each and every weekday morning from 8 to 10. Live streams normally every Monday. Sometimes we get a little bit frisky and have a fun special one in the middle of the week or towards the end of the week, but always on Monday and always following the post games or following game weekends for the University of Hawaii football team. Coming on up in the first hour, that's a lot of what we're going to talk about, Michael, as we'll hear from the University of Hawaii starting quarterback Braden Shager and head coach Tinny Chang as they gave their thoughts immediately following the Bows' 16-13 loss to UCLA. Before we get into all of that, I will ask you, my friend, Michael, how are you doing?
Paul, I'm an emotional wreck right now, Paul. We should have won that game.
I don't disagree with you, and we're going to get all into it. And now I do want to bring in our Ku'ule Agbayani as well, just to make sure that she is there with us. Ku, can you hear us? Are you there?
Hello, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. We can hear you. It is lovely to hear
Perfect.
You.
I hope it sounds okay.
It sounds not as crispy as, obviously you would be here in the den, but it still sounds pretty darn good, and it's good enough to get your thoughts on the University of Hawaii game and that USC game. That'll come up later in the bottom of this first hour. In hour number 2, we'll talk a lot about high school football and some other UH sports. Ku, I asked Michael, I'll ask you, how are you doing today after a weekend full of travel? I think today's a pretty special day for you as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's your 21st birthday, right,
25, Paul, but who's counting?
25.
So 25th birthday for me here, celebrating in Las Vegas. Actually, the first time I've been in Las Vegas for my birthday, but echoing the same sentiments of Michael over there, like I am definitely an emotional wreck. And I texted you guys that the big USC win yesterday helped ease a little bit of the pain that I was feeling following Saturday's close game between UCLA that ultimately ended in a loss. But you know what? We're here in Las Vegas, sprinkled a little bit on USC money line, and there you go. Cashing tickets is what it's all about. So starting my birthday off with a couple bills to play with today.
It sounds like it's going to be a pretty good day, and overall still a pretty good weekend as you got an opportunity to see that LSU-USC game that, as I mentioned, we'll talk about a little bit later as we look at the entire landscape of college football. But we're going to start things off here at home at a game that all three of us were at, and unfortunately it's not the upset party that Hawaii fans had hoped for today, as the Rainbow Warriors fell in a heartbreaker this past Saturday to UCLA 13. It's like I got the southern twang. It was a hot day, guys. Sold out stadium, 15,000 people there. It was really, really nice atmosphere from the start to the finish, and fans were treated to what was an outstanding game competitively, but in the end, for a majority of the fans in attendance, not the result that they were hoping for. Hawaii ended up losing the turnover battle 3-2. there are plenty of positives to take away, but kind of as both of you allude to, a bad taste left over in your mouth after the game. You drop to 1-1, which, to be fair, for most books, and I think a lot of semi-rational fans, probably was the expected record at this point. But I would almost say it feels like a disappointing 1-1 because you saw 2-0 right within your grasp. Is that an unfair way to feel?
Well, I think, like, for me, it's different, right? Because we had the lead. We were up 10-0 at the half, and we let it slip away in the second half. And it wasn't like I know we'll talk about the Wahine volleyball later in the show, but it wasn't like Wahine volleyball the night before where they just got shellacked in that first set 25-7, but they came back to win it in 5. So we started high, but then it was almost like we were watching the hourglass and sand just trickling down until it was time for UCLA to pull off the win. And it would have been different if we were trailing 10-0 and we won the second half and got within a field goal to win it. But it was just a lot of missed opportunity. And, like, I mean, for anybody that says, it's just a football game, right? But it's Hawaii. It's more than that. A win against UCLA would have galvanized this state that probably you would have not seen in a long time. And one thing about the fans is, I mean, shout out the fans for packing it out, because that was actually surprising that they were able to. It looked filled, and I was impressed. But that's but you need to win to get all these casuals. You need to win to kind of get the rowdier crowd in there that are just gonna yell their minds off, right? But yeah, the win would have galvanized the state like no other. On a national level, that would have helped recruiting because you're watching it, or you're watching it on national TV. We have this thing called this new stadium that we're still in the RFP process, and if we're 2-0 heading into September, when supposedly, I don't know if it was due before September or due at the end of the month in September, that RFP process in the New York Stadium, there would have been pressure put on by external factors to make sure that's done right and done properly. But now we're at 1-1, and it's just tough because we can't get the shake off the taste this week because we're on a bye week, and it's gonna be 2 weeks of just question marks right now, right?
I think you make a really good point there talking about the bye week, and I always hate calling you this, Koo, but you're Nostradamus Koo once again, as you kind of texted us with some worry a little after the midway point of that game about the ability to hold that 10-0 lead, because Hawaii, the first half, to their credit, even making the mistakes that they did, held a double-digit lead at the midway point, but it felt like something was off going into that second half, and throughout that third quarter especially, the vibes, we'll call them, were off for the Rainbow Warriors, and you could feel it in the stands just watching it from almost the first play out of halftime.
Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely did feel like, I mean, you could even sense it on the bench where I was sitting, like the bench guys were like up there on the seats and like trying to hype up the crowd, and it felt so good going into halftime, having that lead, shutting out UCLA. And I don't want to put all of the, I guess, quote unquote, blame on the University of Hawaii for letting UCLA back in that game, because UCLA, to their credit, turned it around coming out of the halftime. So obviously they were going to make some of the necessary adjustments that they needed to do as well to start to put points on the board, which they did in that third quarter. Hawaii and shutting Hawaii in the fourth quarter for that 16-13 win. So I don't want to, and credit obviously to even everybody enjoyed all they did. They were really solid, and hats off to Logan Taylor getting an interception. I know the people I was sitting with kind of chuckled like, run faster, why didn't he get to the end zone? But you know what, an INT is an INT, and he looked amazing. The defense, like, all the credit. I know the offense still looks a little shaky, and they're going to figure it out. And hopefully the bye week, which we will hear Braden talk about, like, it will be beneficial to try to get healthy, because he did look off, and he admits not being able to use much after kind of tweaking his ankle. But fortunate for the offense that he was able to stay in the game. And I know a lot of fans already, as they always have, want to see that. What I've been saying is that one of the best quarterbacks to come out of the state of Hawaii and the state of Hawaii in Timmy Chang and Dan Morrison to choose who is the most capable and best quarterback that they have to play in these games. So, and guys, we need to remember that Braden was not recruited for the run and shoot. So the fact that he is able to learn this offense, and from what I gather, any chance he gets, he's in Dan Morrison's office wanting to get better. So I know I am guilty of it as it's happening, frustrated at the time. I know Paul and Michael can attest to it, that I get colorful in our text threads sometimes when it comes to that. But when it all is done, I think Braden he's being tough. The offense will slowly start to figure it out, and the wins are going to come for sure.
The wins will absolutely come. This is a team that I think more than the previous 2 years, I'll say I know definitely more than the first year, and I know my feeling more than last year, that this is a team that is ready to play in a bowl game and is ready to compete in a bowl game. And I know it's weird to say that coming off of a loss, but you mentioned the defense in there, how good they looked, and that's even with them suffering a few injuries throughout the day. They show off the depth in the defensive backfield. They show off the depth at the linebacker position, even with the pass rush not having as good a day as they did against Delaware State. They still, throughout that first half especially, showed that they got some juice when the talent gets bigger, faster, and stronger that they'll face. And then you also mention it. It's very easy to blame the quarterback after a loss, the same way it's the go-to move to blame a head coach after a loss. It's the easy thing to do. And to be totally fair to the people who are doing it, there is merit to it. Braden did not play as well as he could have or should have in that second half, and it's part of the reason the offense sputtered, but there are also plenty of other reasons that Hawaii, throughout a 30-minute second half, was unable to maintain a 10-0 lead, a 10-7 lead, a 13-7 lead, and eventually a 13-10 lead before eventually falling, giving up a pair of field goals. But in general, a ton to talk about, and we'll break it all down coming on up. We need to step aside, but we will continue this Hawaii football recap from the weekend, talking some defense for Dennis Thurman's Rainbow Warrior unit, and hearing what head coach Timmy Chang had to say following the game. You don't want to go too far. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM, AM 760, and streaming live on YouTube.com.
Stuck in traffic? That sucks.
Here's why on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Traffic this afternoon has been much heavier and slower than usual. It's clearing, but slowly. The H1 gets slow after the airport exit on the viaduct. The Moana is still backed up to Middle Street, and then after Halava, the H1 stays slow to the Waipahu exit. If you're inbound, it's going to be slow from the Middle Street merge to the Punahou exit. From there, you'll move fine until you get to some slow traffic on Kalani and Ole Highway at Pu'uikena. It's slow from there to Coolio O because of malfunctioning traffic lights. The three windward highways are moving fine.
Man, I loved playing high school sports growing up. And it's fun being a fan now, don't get me wrong, but sitting in the stands feels like I'm missing out on all the action, you know? I wanted to get back in the game, so I signed up to be a high school official. It takes me back to my playing days. I'm supporting students, and I get paid to make the big calls. Do you want to see the game up close? Sign up to become an official in Hawaii at highschoolofficials.com.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Hawaii Pacific Health proudly presents Hawaii Pacific University Sports on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Listen live to HPU men's and women's basketball, baseball, and softball on HSRN 95.1 FM, AM 760, or at hawaiisportsradio.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back into Wake Up in the Den. I'm Paul Brecht, joined by Michael Lascaro and Ku'ulei Agbayani, talking all things Hawaii football on this Aloha Monday following the Rainbow Warriors' 16-13 loss this past Saturday. If you want to get into the conversation, you can text us at 808-888-5481. That's 808-888-5481. Let us know how you're feeling following the Rainbow Warriors' close loss, and if you're taking the positives from the game or if you're still licking the wounds a little bit, not taking head coach Timmy Chang's 24-hour advice. You can also follow us on social media at High Sports Radio to catch all of our coverage from the weekend, get Michael Lascaro's awesome photos from the game, get our recaps, some takeaways. 3 takeaways went live on our website yesterday. You can catch them on our social medias today as well. 3 takeaways from the Rainbow Warriors loss to the Bruins. And we're talking about that here inside the den, guys, as Hawaii, throughout the first 30 minutes, showing off the defense. They force a pair of turnovers, shut out the UCLA Bruins, a couple of interceptions from linebackers, and then the second half give up 16 points as they continue to see the field over and over and over again. And after the game, we heard from head coach Timmy Chang, and he gave his thoughts following the loss, and kind of similarly to the rest of his team, seemed slightly dejected after that loss, but nonetheless trying to put on a brave face. And you'll hear him talk a little bit about how at the end of the day, UCLA just made a few more plays, was a little more clean, and that was the difference in a game like this one. This is head coach Timmy Chang talking following the loss to the UCLA Bruins.
Yeah, in a game like this, tough. They made a few more plays than us, and the result is what it is. But I feel for my boys. They work hard, and you don't deserve it. I mean, you gotta go take. You gotta go take things in life that you want, and it's a good thing. It's hard to say it's a good thing for our guys losing, but through adversity, it helps these guys grow. Helps me grow, and we'll come back ready to go the next time we play in Texas.
On your next to last drive, it kind of looked like you were playing as if it were your last drive and trying to milk the clock and play more ball control. Was that because of the way UCLA was playing you, or because you want to just leave them with as little time as possible?
Yeah, you feel like you can kind of. I'm trying to remember the last drive, but the second to the last drive, yeah. We just wanted to put ourselves in a good situation. If you're the last guy with the ball, and then you give the team a 2-minute drill. And sometimes it's hard to press a 2-minute drill. So try to make it tough on them, put time down. But sometimes there's different things in some of the plays that that I got to get better at when it comes to coaching.
Hey, Coach Chang, what would you say in the second half UCLA did to make the going tougher for you guys offensively, and any specific things that you picked up on?
No, they're pretty good. They're getting after the quarterback a little bit. They're winning on some of their matchups, which that's watching the film from last year. That's kind of what they did. They were really poised in one-on-one matchups that they won, and so they made a couple more plays on defense than we did on offense.
Coach, talk about the special teams. You had the fake punt there early on in the game, and just kind of how you saw that facet of the game perform this afternoon.
Yeah, special teams will continue to get better. It's a point of emphasis for us. It helps when you guys are in the system as long as they are. Now being in the third off season for us together, and so overall in the team aspect, special teams going to become a weapon, and we plan on using special teams as a weapon.
Hey, Coach, just talk about when you guys get the ball with 56 seconds left. Just what was the play call? What was the plays that you guys had in mind driving down the field?
Anytime in 2 minutes, especially when you get sacked, it really helps. It really kills drives in that type of situation. We had a couple. We had a chance at 4 plays, but as you can see, the sacks are drive killers in 2-minute warnings, which we ended up taking one. But got to get better in some of these situations. I got to help the guys get better in those situations, and put together. You don't want to be in that situation where you got to come back, but if you're in it, you got to just be better.
How do you guys get better?
Practice.
Coach, what can you say about the toughness of Braden Shager to stay in the game, and do you think that affected the play calling later on?
Yeah, Brady was a little banged up, and then took a shot in there. I believe his first quarter, took a shot early on, and so maybe it affected him a little bit. But the kid is so tough, man. He fights through, and takes shots and gets up and keeps on going. But I think for us, at times, we like to move them and get them going. But in the first quarter, he got banged up a little bit, and so it kind of prevented that.
There are a lot of penalties, a lot of personal fouls, things like that. And also, there were 2 delayed games. Is there a communication problem with the communication system?
Yeah, good question. No, there wasn't. I tried to call timeout on one. Didn't want to waste the timeout on the second one. It's just something that I got to get better at. Informing my quarterback.
Yeah. Coach, it was the first time you guys sold out the place in this 15,000 setup primetime slot on CBS. What do you think of the game atmosphere, presentation, opportunity?
Yeah, I thought it was really special that the fans came out and supported the team, and they really felt the emotion, of our fans, the state. There are a lot of UCLA fans that traveled here. There's a couple homegrown guys on that team, and so I thought it was a great environment put on by a university, and being in that prime time slot, it was a good game. It's a fun game to watch, and so overall good.
Coach, I know you don't want to, it's a loss is a loss, but what are some of the silver linings that you told your team in the locker room going into next week and then the following week when you guys head to Texas?
No, I just told them that, we talk about adversity right here in this lecture hall, our team meeting room, and we talk about, fighting through this. This is adversity. These guys want to win. They got 24 hours to fill it, but it's on to the next for us, and really, it just really comes down to, becoming better, adding value, making good decisions. But I'm so proud. This is what I did tell them. I told them I'm proud of them. Okay, they just made a couple more plays than us, but I told them that I would look in the mirror and I'm taking the blame, and this one's on me, and I'm gonna find a way to get better myself, and from there, individually, I expect them to do the same. And then we come back to work and we go.
And that was head coach Timmy Chang following the 16-13 loss for the Rainbow Warriors against UCLA this past Saturday. And Timmy says that one's on him. He also asked his team to look in the mirror and ask the same questions to themselves about what they could have done better, about if they had mistakes, mental errors, if they had moments that may have gone awry this past Saturday. And Michael, I'll start with you. When it comes to this past weekend, is it fair for Timmy to say that this loss, this one's on me, or is it a mixture of things? How do you feel about his statement post game saying this one's on me?
Yeah, it's definitely on Timmy, and I'm not, again, for the YouTubers, I'm wearing my University of Hawaii hat, so it's not like I'm like trying to basketball program. But he is the head guy, right? And it's his third year in the program. And when you're up 10-0 at the half and you let that slip away, it is on the head coach. I kind of did a little Twitter download with my thoughts yesterday, and in that second half, I felt like our playbook shrunk versus the UCLA playbook kind of grew, right? And I say it shrunk because Braden wasn't fully healthy throughout the game. I'm not questioning his toughness. I'm not questioning what he can do for our program. But if he's not able to be effective with his legs like he was against Delaware State, where I believe that Braden was actually the one that went to the coaching staff and said, hey, I can run the ball. Let's put in some running plays. And we saw that when they regained the lead against Delaware State, where they ran a quarterback draw with Landon Sims lead blocking for Braden. If that's not in the playbook, then we're going to have to expand. We're going to have to evolve. And I don't know if the run and shoot is capable of helping us win. If it's a great base offense, but it can't be our only offense, right? And, with the running game, our running game was non-existent, right? Our leading rusher was our punter. And I'm not saying like it's the offensive line. No, there's other ways that we can get involved with the running game, such as running stretch plays, running sweep plays, running read options, running speed options where you can where the quarterback can run to the outside and pitch it to the running back. And there's plays that we were should have made, but we didn't. I think one of the things that kind of stuck out to me the most was I think there was a lot of second guessing ourselves. I pointed out before the end of the first half, right after Logan Taylor gets this huge interception, we are literally first and goal from the 5, but we run a run to the boundary instead of the field side. So the field is already constricted. We call timeout. After the timeout, the receivers are already lined up. I see Spencer Curtis lined up on the outside and, Jonah Panoke on the left side and Ashlock in the left slot. But after the timeout, they re-huddle. So I don't know if they called a different play because it was strange to me because we just called a timeout. Our half of our team is lined up, but then we have to re-huddle, call a new play, and they did call a new play because there was they had a split where Pofela was kind of behind Jonah Panoke, but we still run a play for Ashlock on the boundary side with Jonah Panoke. And like I know Jonah Panoke got into a very eventful conversation on social media yesterday, but if you're gonna put him out there in the red zone, then you have to kind of show that he's a threat. But I don't think Jonah had a single catch this game, and again, we're going to talk about the Wahine later, but we heard Coach Robin say we have to put the best sticks on the floor. I don't know who our best 11 yet is on this offense to put on the field.
I don't know if Hawaii knows who the best 11 is on this offense is quite yet. They're still figuring that out. And you bring up the running game, and that's somewhere that I look that it still really needs somebody to become Batman, or even a Batman and a Robin. They need some sort of identity in the backfield, and similarly in the wide receiver room outside of Pofele Ashlock, they need somebody to start to step up as that secondary go-to guy. I feel like a lot of times. Ku, I know we have a break coming on up here, but I do want to get your thoughts on how Timmy handled the post-game media avail, as he very clearly tried to toe the line between the pride that comes with competing with a new member of the Big Ten Conference and, being on national TV and the steps that Hawaii did take forward Saturday, while also trying to emphasize that this is no longer a program that is okay with moral victories. How did you feel about his comments post-game?
I mean, to echo the sentiment that Michael had, it's fair to, as the head coach, as the head guy in charge, you're always going to be the one to take the blame. You're never going to blame anybody but yourself, and that's fair. And that's the kind of guy that Timmy is. But, and also to echo Michael, the playbook did shrink, but it shrank for a reason. I mean, if you guys looked at their line, on the other side, both offensive and defensive line for UCLA, I mean, it felt like they were a whole 50 pounds heavier than our guys and 5 inches taller. It seemed like they were humongous. So I do want to give some credit to the line for at least doing everything they could, knowing that Hawaii across the board on average was completely undersized compared to UCLA. So a lot needs to be said about that. But when Braden, his plant foot kind of is not the same, and he can't run and he can't throw the same, you could tell that the throws were a bit more off because it ruins everything when you can't plant accordingly. So Hawaii already has struggled getting the run game going because the offensive line cannot open the holes big enough for any of the running backs to really burst through. But now you're going up against a defensive line that is just humongous, and you're really just trying to prevent your quarterback from even getting sacked. UCLA tallied 5 sacks on our quarterback for 26 yards. So when you're already competing with that, not getting it going, I mean, Hawaii netted 51 yards on the ground. That's not exactly what you want to see, but it's just that's kind of the reason why the playbook shrank. Their run game is just not going to get going, considering not being able to open up the right holes against a massive UCLA D-line. And then when your quarterback isn't 100%, I mean, you got to try to figure it out as you go on the fly, which is kind of what Timmy said. Yeah, there could have been some change in play callings, but there is a legit reason why they had to shrink that playbook, and it was unfortunate, but that's football, right? That's kind of the name of the game. You got to deal with the injuries, and I'm sure Timmy's going to learn from this, and all the other coaches are going to learn from it as well. One thing I think before we go to break, before I forget to mention, and we can talk about it when we come back, the thing that killed me when we looked at it at the ending was just, I don't remember when we became that undisciplined. The 10 penalties for 97 yards. That's probably the stat that hurts me the most. I remember last season, it's kind of like anytime they tallied a lot of yards and penalties, you're like, oh, that's going to end into a loss. So definitely that's something that needs to be improved by being a little bit more disciplined. Fortunately, we did not lose Peter Manuma early in the game due to that targeting penalty. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, could have had that penalty number be even higher, though. I thought it was the appropriate call to pick up the flag. I thought it was a little egregious that it was thrown in the first place. Just a good old-fashioned hard hit from Peter Manuma. And we'll talk a little bit more about that defense when we come on back. We'll also continue our conversation about the offense as we hear from starting quarterback Braden Shager and his thoughts following the loss. What the heck happened between that first and second half, and is his consecutive game started streak in jeopardy? All that coming up and more. You don't want to miss it. Back here in a flash on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Here's the dream. Keep doing what you love. What drives you? What's your passion? Whether you're catching waves, climbing mountains, or playing with the grandkids, the choices you make now can help you keep living your life your way. At Hawai'i Pacific Health, we're here to help you live healthier with preventive care and a personalized approach. Learn more at hawaiipacifichealth.org/healthierlife.
Sports allow us to play, learn, and grow. But there's something more important than victory. At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, we believe every athlete deserves to be safe from abuse and misconduct on and off the field. We equip athletes, parents, coaches, and others with the right education to recognize, prevent, and respond to harmful behavior. Join the movement to champion respect and end abuse at uscenterforsafesport.org.
Down the middle, a fountain tight pass. Tolentino hits it over. Outside push to Phillips, off the block and down. And Wailua goes back-to-back, and your champions in for Division II.
The OIA lives here. Relive the winning moments and listen to games on demand. Go to hawaiisportsradio.com and click on the OIA Sports tab.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Paul Brecht here live from Studio 5 for this Aloha Monday YouTube edition show, joined by Michael Liscaro on the board and our very own birthday girl, Ku'ulei Agbayani in Las Vegas. Ku took in the USC-LSU game this past Sunday after taking in the UH game in the Islands on Saturday. A lot of busy travel for her, but hopefully now, Ku, you'll be able to enjoy your day as we're breaking down all things that were Hawaii football, good things and bad things, we'll say, in the first hour here of 2. In case you're just joining us, you can catch the recording of this show on demand on our website, on our website, where you get most podcasts, or even on YouTube. Get in on the conversation by following us and shooting us a message on social media at High Sports Radio, or shoot us a text at 808-888-5481. That's 808-888-5481. And speaking of, we actually did receive a text while we were in our last segment, and wanted to first off say thank you for tuning on in and joining us, and wanted to shoot the text in and said, "Hi, good show. According to ESPN, UH had a 71% win probability. Good defense in the first half. Brian Kelly, angry rant, sum it up. Secondly, UH versus UCLA in Vegas was a missed opportunity. LSU versus USC, 63,000 fans, more than the Super Bowl crowd. Ku'ulei bet on the Texas Longhorns versus Michigan. Good show and luck." Mahalo for tuning in, getting in on the conversation. And I think that's a pretty fair conversation starter here for this next segment as we start to talk about the offense a little bit more and about Braden Shager's day, who he struggled throughout that second half. The first half, the first drive more specifically, he was everything that Hawaii fans wanted, running to pick up yardage and make for easier second and third down conversions. He was completing passes 5 of 5 on the first drive, 6 of 6 on the first drive for 51 yards, tossed the touchdown to Pafele Ashlock, and then all of a sudden things going a little worse as the game went on and more pressure started to hit. He, as Ku'ulei mentioned, was sacked 5 times throughout the day, 11 tackles for loss by the UCLA defense throughout the victory, and when it came down to it, just some bad decisions when under pressure. The interception in the third quarter by Braden was as he was hit, and just in general, you could see that his confidence was not at the same level as it was in that first quarter in the post game. He was a bit broken up, it felt like, as he walked in, very clearly upset following the loss. And before we get into the conversation more here, here's what Braden Shager, the starting quarterback for the University of Hawaii, had to say following the 16-13 loss to UCLA on Saturday.
Hey, Braden, first up, how are you feeling, man, after some of the hits you took tonight, today?
Pretty beat up, took a lot of hits. Took one to my ankle, but we get a bye week next week to hopefully get back healthy.
Can you describe the challenges that were presented in that second half, particularly by UCLA and just moving the ball downfield?
Yeah, I think they got a good defense, so hats off to them. They did a good job of doing some confusing looks to our offense, and at the end of the day, we just got to be able to handle it and be better.
Hey, Brandon, just talk about the game and what you felt. Obviously, it was a bit of a slow start. Just what you take from this and what needs to be improved.
Just got to look at everything. We got to, be better, do our 1/11th better, and it starts from everywhere. It starts with myself, and I got to take control and be better.
You guys get the ball with 55 or 56 seconds left in the fourth. Just what was going through your mind as you guys were trying to drive the ball down the field?
I was just having faith and trusting that we would be able to do so. I had confidence throughout the whole game that we would be able to move the ball, and sometimes it just doesn't turn your way, doesn't bounce your way, so it's unfortunate.
Brayden, I know you said you got banged up, you powered through it. Did you feel like did that limit you in somehow? Did it affect you in that second half?
Yeah, I couldn't run at the end of the first half. It was a little better in the second half, but still struggled to be able to run. And, obviously that's a big part of my game recently, is running. So there's no excuses. I got to be better.
Did it affect who you did your plan to throw or anything?
A little bit, but there's just throws that you got to make, and I'm not gonna sit up here and make excuses for myself. Yeah, I'm proud of the way we fought. Came out, scored pretty early, and you just got to keep that momentum rolling. And we weren't able to do so. The defense played amazing, so we got to be able to back them up. And I was really proud of the way they played. I thought they did amazing. They deserved to win the game, so we got to play better on offense.
Right now, obviously emotions are high right now, and just kind of just showing just what this game meant to you as the quarterback. But what are some of the silver linings that you can take from this afternoon into the bye week, into you guys' trip to Houston?
Yeah, it's tough. It means a lot to me. I want to win for everybody, for this team, for the state, for everything.
Brayden, when you took that hit early, what was going through your mind? How badly did you want to stay out there? In a game like this.
Yeah, I think it's any game. I'm not gonna. I don't plan on coming out. That's just not the way I've been raised or the way I play football. I'm gonna, stick in there for my guys and do whatever it takes to give my best to win. And I think I've continued to do that, and unfortunately, just didn't happen.
And what was kind of the message and the mood in the locker room after that game?
It's just you got to move on. You get one day to be mad about this one, and then you got to move on. And we got a game in 2 weeks that we got to rest up and get ready for.
And that was University of Hawaii starting quarterback Brayden Schager following the Bows' 16-13 loss to the Bruins this past Saturday. And you can kind of hear it in his voice just how dejected he was after that loss. I think a lot of Hawaii fans can probably relate to that feeling, as the chance at the first ever victory over UCLA was right there in the grasp for Hawaii, and we're up against the clock again for the break, so we're going to step aside real fast for our final break here in hour number 1 of 2, but don't worry, the Hawaii football conversation will continue when we come back. You won't want to miss it. We'll be back in a flash on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Hawaii Sports Radio Network recognizes the Colt Brennan Legacy Fund of the Hawaii Community Foundation, established by the Brennan family to honor the memory of their son and brother, former University of Hawaii quarterback Colt Brennan. The fund supports causes that Colt cared about, UH athletics and youth sports, in addition to organizations that support individuals struggling with mental health and addiction issues. Visit hawaiicommunityfoundation.org/Colt-fund today to learn more about how you can help.
Smokey the Bear. Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do. Don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com, and remember,
only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back on to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, and Ku'ule Hongbayani talking tons of football on this Labor Day Monday edition of Wake Up in the Den. Roads are clear so far today. Hope you're having a beautiful start to your new week. For some people on the East Coast, I know school starts up this week, especially up in the Northeast. I know for us here in Hawaii, school's been started for a while now already. We have high school football conversation coming up in hour number 2. Stick around to keep up with that and hear what happened in the weekend that was in Hawaii high school football. But right now, talking about University of Hawaii football with Ku and Michael. And I do want to eventually give the flowers that the defense deserves, but we just heard from quarterback Braden Shager, his thoughts following the loss to UCLA, and I want to give each of you an opportunity to kind of discuss where the offense went wrong and some of the things that you did like in that first half from the offense, as Hawaii, it really did feel like a tale of two different halves. And Michael, you mentioned the running game not really getting going. We didn't expect the running game to be elite going into this weekend, as you and I collaborate every week for 5 players to watch that you can get on our website, hawaiisportsradio.com, or on our social medias. Remember to follow us at High Sports Radio. And one of those players was Pefele Ashlock, and I really enjoyed this. Hawaii peppered Pefele with targets all throughout Saturday. 19 targets, by far a team high. 9 receptions for 112 yards, a game high 112 yards. And his first score of the season. Thought that was important for him to get into the end zone, especially in one of the higher profile games that Hawaii plays in. I almost feel bad wanting more from him and from his performance on Saturday, because he had so many moments that were so fantastic, and yet in my head still a couple of times I sit here and I think about a couple of drops that Pefele had that could have helped him and could have helped the Bows move down the field even more, and I think about how he could have also been helped by another receiver stepping up. We saw Nick Senecal finally get into the action a little bit more. 5 receptions from him for over 30 yards. Tylen Hines with a few more catches in the passing game. Michael, when it comes to the passing game, in the first half, what did you see that you liked? And in the second half, you talked about it already a little bit. What changed that you didn't necessarily like as much?
Well, I think in the first half, we had versatility and we had other players coming in and being part of the game plan. On that first drive, after we converted on the fake punt, we had a player like Devin Tauefa, who was a tight end listed on the roster. I think he's trying to be a slot receiver now, but he was in the game. And we had 2 passes designed for Tylen Hines to get, at least one designed to get him to get the ball on a screen on that opening drive after we convert the fake punt, where we score only touchdown the game. But we won't really get anything from Tylen Hines after that first drive, right? He gets 2 catches after we convert the fake punt before the Pefele touchdown. And then he just gets 2 catches the rest of the way. And I know he did kind of mess up on the kick return game when he kind of brought out from the 1 and got shut down in front side of the 15. But he wasn't getting touches. Like, they weren't punting to him. And, you know, it's a bad decision, but the guy just wants to make an impact for this team. I go back to the question where we need to make sure we know who the best 11 is on the field and just play our best 11 majority of the snaps. I think not only in the receiving game, but in the running game, we played 5 running backs. And I think that's at least 2 too many, right? Because there's one running back, I won't kind of name names because there's a whole bunch, but there's one running back that did not have a carry. So you know when that he was in the game, it was a pass play. And I know what Ku was saying earlier where, you know, the defensive line is all that, but there were moments, I think there's, I got to look at the game, but there are moments when I think we might be tipping off some plays. On that first play of the second half, the cornerback that was on Carson Papun on the outside didn't even touch Carson. He knew it was a run play, and he got in there for a tackle for loss on that first play of the second half. And again, the receiving game, making sure our best 11's on the field. Last week against Delaware State, Dekel Crowdis and Tamato Mokia Atimalala had 5 catches for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. This game, just 1 reception for 6 yards. We need to have some consistency. And I get Braden, doing everything he can, but he also needs to get some chemistry going with the receivers he's throwing to, and we need to establish that depth chart. And this is not Pee Wee, this is not JV, this is not high school football where you want to get everyone in the game. Like, you have to put your best players in the game, and I hope they figure it out.
That's interesting. It's fair because there is a lot of rotation in the wide receivers for Hawaii, and there's a lot of rotation for the running backs. Ku, kind of in a similar vein, you were concerned about the offense becoming a little more conservative, a little more prevent, playing a little, I don't want to use the word scared, but scared to lose the lead rather than looking to build onto it in that second half. And going forward, what would you like to see from this offense, kind of similar to Michael, in terms of consistency and in terms of certain players perhaps getting more touches?
Honestly, like, the more I think about it, and I was thinking about this on Saturday as I watched the game unfold, I would want to see our receivers, because I do agree that maybe it's like just too many in rotation, all of that stuff, play calling. I know Braden Shager, as he should, just like Timmy Chang, will take a lot of the blame for how the game goes. Braden Shager takes a lot of the criticism, being, the leader of the offense. But I do have to think back to Saturday's game and think about the receivers just not being as aggressive with trying to get to the football. Like, there was some drop passes, so a lot of the incompletions weren't necessarily on Braden Shager, but also just more, like I said, being more aggressive, because I go back to a play that Titus Mokiao Atimalala made. He was the one targeted on offense by the Bruins, and it almost looked like, so the pass was short, it looked like Hawaii would have intercepted that football. Titus went up to get it to prevent an interception. Like, he went after that football to stop it from happening, and that's not the same type of hustle that I'm seeing from the receivers so far. Everything needs to kind of be perfectly placed. Like, I get it, but I just want to see them be a little bit more aggressive in terms of going after the football. There was one, it escapes me who was the targeted receiver on that play, but one of the interceptions by UCLA, like, it was basically the receiver just kind of stood there. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be more aggressive on offense. And especially when you have someone like when Braden's not healthy, the throws won't necessarily be on target. So that would probably be one of the things that I feel like I don't want to say it'll be easy. Nothing's ever easy when you're actually in the situation, right? Like, I'm not a player on that field, but it's nothing to do with the play calling or just in general of the talent that you have on the field. But everyone can be a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I was a very, very aggressive type of soccer player. Like, I always wanted to get after the football. And that is where I'm like, hey, it's possible. We saw it from Titus on the other side, who played very well. And I just am not seeing that same type of aggression from our receiving core. And that's probably the biggest fix that I would want to see going forward, because play calling is going to change. I agree with you guys wholeheartedly where, hey, we'll see establish more of the depth chart and kind of get Braden Shager getting on the same page with certain receivers. We will see that as more games are played, as we get more reps. But something that can be fixed instantly is just being a bit more aggressive and preventing like kind of these easy reads and plays for the opposing defense. And I think that's very interesting, Michael. Good point out by you on, is it like potentially Hawaii could be tipping some of their plays without even knowing it, which is to the credit of the UCLA side of the football. I mean, Ikaika Malloy, first-year defensive coordinator, kudos to that coaching staff for being able to, again, make some type of halftime adjustments for their team. And we got to give some credit. I know UCLA isn't exactly projected to be at the top of the Big Ten or anything this season, but they're still a very, very quality football team.
All right. Before we close out this first hour here, Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, and Ku'ule Agbayani, and Wake Up in the Den, which is live every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10, wanted to ask each of you real quick. It feels like a lot of negative after a game that there was a lot of positive. I'm going to ask each of you for one thing that you are looking at that you took from this past weekend that you're taking comfort from, solace from, something from this past weekend's game that you are able to hang your hat on and say, man, that was really good from Hawaii. I really enjoyed this from Hawaii. This can be important going forward for the Rainbow Warriors. Michael, we'll start with you as you were down on the field, got an opportunity to, shoot some pictures and got to see the game in frames. What was your positive thought from Hawaii?
I'll actually toss this to Ku because I wanna really give a good positive answer, and I need to think about it for about a minute or so. So Ku, if you got one, please fire away.
Ku.
I'll just do real quick because we are up against the top of the hour clock, but definitely want to give another shout out to the special teams unit. I mean, they seem to this is the second game where they looked really, really solid. I mean, some of those punts just end up in the perfect location. So shout out special because I think we've seen a positive game from last season where something's got a bit frustrating and we for losing Matthew Shipley to Arkansas, things like that, being able to hold his unit, and I think a really good thing from the special teams unit through a couple of games.
I'm glad you give a shout out to the special teams unit, as those are our friends over there. Shout out to our friend Thomas Sheffield and to the special teams unit that has put together so much. Michael, do you have one before we got to go to break?
Yeah, I think it's got to be our defensive secondary, the depth. We saw it in the first quarter where they were trying Cam Stone, and Cam Stone said, mm-mm. And I think one of those plays where Ku was saying that Titus Mokiao Atamalala kind of almost had to be aggressive to prevent the interception was because Cam Stone was in the area. But I think guys like Devin King, who I don't think he was on the early depth charts, but he really showed out. I know there's a good play with him breaking up a pass over the middle. And I think his name is Jaheim Wilson-Jones, number 14. He came up in the fourth quarter and made, I think, 2 pass breakups. I was kind of little words like, who is this guy? And sure enough, he showed out and he did his thing. Our linebackers, they kind of showed their depth. I think Noah Kemp made some plays. Jalen Smith definitely. And Logan Taylor. I really hope Jemai Otis can get healthy too. But yeah, also one thing, I do think the running game, we had success when we had Kual Pehopa, who was coming over from the defensive line side. When he was running as a pulling guard to the right side, we had some pretty decent runs. So I want to point him out because our offensive line does have something to work with.
I am glad you put them out there because those were a few of the ones that I wanted to point out as well. As you mentioned, the defensive backfield, the depth that is there for Hawaii, very, very important for them going forward with the talent that is in the Mountain West Conference, and the offensive line with some building blocks and some positive momentum to build on going forward. Way up against the clock. Got to step aside for the top of the hour break, but when we come back, we'll continue our football conversation in Wake Up in the Den. We'll be right back.
KOIA lives here. KGU AM, K236CR. Honolulu is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
He deals 2-2. Swung on, crushed, left field. This one is hammered on the way. Gone! Just short of the upper deck. Julio, a missile. He launched it. The building erupts.
The Seattle Mariners are on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Listen live throughout the season on 95.1 FM and AM 760. Visit hawaiisportsradio.com for the current broadcast schedule.
I love playing sports, especially for my school. And that's because school sports are special. It's where it's safe to fail. It's where we're taught resilience, where our fear becomes confidence. It's where we learn to get back up after every fall. School sports are where 7.8 million students go from I can't to I can.
This message presented by the HHSAA and the Hawaii Interscholastic Athletic Directors Association.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
This is your home for Dallas Cowboys football. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. We'll bring you all the exciting NFL action each week. Dallas Cowboys football can be heard right here
on Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Go Cowboys.
Hey, everything okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Honey. Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me about school today.
When kids can't find the right words, music can help them sound it out. Talk to the kids in your life about their emotional well-being. Find tools and resources at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Hi, this is head coach Lincoln Riley. You're listening to HSRN 95.1 FM and AM 760, proud supporter of the USC Trojans. Trojan fans, we cannot wait to see you in the Coliseum this fall. Fight on.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome on back to Hour 2 of Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, and still Ku'ulei Agbayani, the birthday girl, joining us from Las Vegas, talking about all things Hawaii football here on Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM, AM 760, or streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com or our YouTube channel, where, of course, we do see all of you chit-chatting in the comments. We appreciate you tuning in, appreciate you chiming in, and we appreciate you being so passionate about the University of Hawaii football. We'll talk about the defense just a little bit more against the UCLA offense before we close out our college football conversation. We asked Ku about her experience at Allegiant Stadium for USC versus LSU. What a game that was yesterday, but talked about it a little bit before. The defense was the story of Saturday for Hawaii. If you want to talk about the positives for the Bows, as in the first half, they shut out the Bruins. They win the turnover battle. They intercept Ethan Garbers twice, both from the linebacker position. The defensive backfield playing phenomenal. And for the most part, they shut down the running game throughout the first 30 minutes against the Bruins. And that was a big part of, in my opinion, what allowed the Bows to be so successful defensively, is that they did make Eric Bieniemy's offense become a little bit more one-dimensional, right? Where Ethan Garbers had to start to make plays with his legs, with his arms, and with all due respect to Garbers, who ended up playing a pretty solid game overall after his second half, he wasn't able to elevate the offense throughout most of that first half for the Bruins, and that was a big part of why Hawaii saw themselves up 10-0 at halftime, as a couple of turnovers helped lead to a field goal right before halftime. And Michael, wanting to stick with the first half side of things right there, what did you see from the defense specifically that you thought gave them the most success? What led them to the most success? Who led them to the most success against that UCLA offense that, while we have mentioned they are expected to finish towards the bottom of the Big Ten Conference this year in their first year over there, they do have some legitimate talent, whether it be TJ Harden or J. Michael Sturdivant or Rico Flores Jr., Titus Mokiao Atimalala, so on and so forth. There's a lot of talent on that UCLA offense still, and for 30 minutes, they couldn't put up any points. Why?
Well, you gotta start with the defensive backs, and I know that's Coach Dennis Thurman's area of expertise, and they really showed out. Again, I mentioned earlier they tried Cam Stone with Titus Mokia. Atimalala got Titus moving around in the stuff, and Cam Stone held up. Sebo Brown, shout out him. He also held up too, and that's kind of where it started. And and then I think Elijah Palmer, he was really big too. I know we mentioned him in our 5 players to watch, but he made some plays. I think he had a couple of tackle for loss. I think he may have at least one tackle for loss. He had some pretty big tackles too. That's like, hey, you can't go outside or you can't go inside with our secondary. And then our line kind of kept getting pressure. I think it was Ezra Iwaimalo who got that near safety on Garbers before he kind of flung it up, where Logan Taylor kind of almost had a pick six and got us in position to at least get a field goal. But Dennis Thurman, he knows what he's doing, and I think, in sticking with the first half alone, what also contributed was that Garbers was a statue back there, and that's something that we didn't get a chance to unveil our pass rush and our pressure against Delaware State, because their quarterback for Delaware State was a running threat, and that kind of shortened or limited our ability to get after the quarterback. And again, sticking to the first half, Garbers didn't really use his legs as much, and we were able to get after it, and put some pressure on them, and they were all out of sorts too. And our defense did what they were supposed to do in that first half. And then we mentioned the penalties. First half penalties, it definitely hurt, but it didn't ultimately matter anyways, because we got that turnover in the red zone with Jalen Smith on the falling possession. So our defense, I love the intimidation factor, and I love that they will bring a hard hat and they will come to play.
The defense came to play throughout the first half, and the second half, I don't want to make it seem as though they suddenly fell fully apart. The third quarter was not their best showing. A couple of blown coverages, a 50-yard gain setting up a touchdown, and obviously so many other things that happened throughout the afternoon, but they re-steadied themselves in that fourth quarter. And I'm going to continue the rushing conversation because, Koo, that's something that you and I have talked about quite a bit with worries, or at least wanting to see the consistency from this Hawaii defense this year, where in the first couple of years under Timmy Chang, Hawaii's defense has struggled to shut down the run, and against a program who over the past few years has been very strong running the football, they did pretty well throughout the day, holding the Bruins to only 71 yards rushing throughout the afternoon. Did you like what you saw from the rushing defense, Ku'ule, or were there times where you still had those concerns of old?
Oh, I'm always going to have the concerns of old. Not going to lie. I mean, we were fortunate, right? I mentioned this before. If we were playing a UCLA team that was their team like a couple of years ago, there would have been more worry going into this game. And I would feel like, oof, couple touchdown underdog it's being a little, generous to us in a way. But Ethan Garbers obviously is not Dorian Thompson-Robinson, right? Like, he's not going to be that dual threat guy that you're going to have to prevent from running. I didn't really know too much about the rest of their running back core and whatnot. So I'm still seeing the type of runners that they've faced the last couple of years, where it's always going to give me worry. I mean, watching that USC game last night, I texted you guys that, man, if we could combine Hawaii's secondary defense with USC's defense against on, nobody is going to be able to score on the University of Hawaii. So hopefully in the future, when they are really tested on the ground, and we'll see how it is going to be at Sam Houston now, that they are able to shut them.
We lost
about this secondary, and Dennis Thurman, I mean, just been able to do incredible things in the secondary and be able to shut down passes.
You bring up the running game, you bring up the secondary. All of it will be important as Hawaii returns to the field in a couple of weeks, and obviously that'll be important after suffering some injuries. We've talked ad nauseum, it feels like, about Braden Shager suffering an injury Saturday, Luke Felix Fualalo, who also the starting right tackle, who suffered an injury on Saturday and did not return. I do want to say that I saw him walking out without crutches after the game, so that was an encouraging sign, though obviously you'll only know what you know once they see them out on the field once again in Texas when they take on Sam Houston State. Michael, you bring up Jemai Otis, who got a bit banged up. Pafele Ashlock had a finger injury at one point throughout the contest, so a bunch of little bumps, bruises, and probably a little bit more for the Rainbow Warriors. Want to close our conversation on Hawaii and move on over to the 9th island here as USC LSU yesterday. Ku, you got an opportunity to take that contest in, and that was the premier matchup for the weekend that was college football in week 1. I'm curious about, quite literally everything about the day, starting with, of course, the atmosphere, the vibe, what it was like while you were there, and then, of course, how you enjoyed what was an incredible game.
Oh my goodness. Everything was incredible about it. Allegiant Stadium, for anyone that was able to watch Hawaii play at Allegiant before, it's hands down a beautiful stadium, obviously with nice comfy seats for a college game because it is an NFL stadium. 63,969 in attendance, which is a record for that Vegas Kickoff Classic between USC and LSU, surpassing the Super Bowl and any Raiders game or concert. Shout out to our Rosh Markazi for posting about that. But it felt like that. The vibes were high. It was loud. I mean, all the fans were just into it. We were actually sitting next to some LSU fans. So it was just like some fun, playful banter going on. And ultimately, USC coming out on top. And I actually went with one of my girlfriends, and it was her first football game like ever. And I'm like, now you're officially spoiled, because the tickets that we got, that I was able to get through the Hawaii Bowl event live auction, they were 50-yard line, row 13, and had access to the VIP Hospitality Champions Club, where you have a full spread, like a full buffet spread, and drinks and food are included in everything. So I'm like, you are never going to be able to take in a football game ever again, because this is like, not only was it a nice atmosphere, like where we sat and everything, but the game was so exciting, right down to the wire. And the team that we were cheering for is the team that won, and able to, and kudos to her, because she had beginner's luck. I only put a small sprinkle on USC money line just to make it fun. And she was like, no, let's put in more money. Let's put in more. I was like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm not sure what to expect from this USC team. And she's like, let's just do it. It's your birthday. And I'm like, all right, fine. And so kudos to her. We were able to cash a couple of bills where I probably would have only made like $60, but she was the one that wanted to put in more money, USC money line, and there you go. So it kind of capped off everything, and I will forever tell her, like, you will never be able to take in a football game the same. But it was phenomenal, just a whole different thing. I remember, we're up against the clock, but I wanted to bring up this point because I think, on the Hawaii side, just to kind of bring it back to Hawaii, where they're trying to get the coup chant started on third down. Let me tell you guys, and it's weird because not everyone is doing the coup chant, but also not everyone is just yelling on third down on the opposing side. When it comes to that type of college atmosphere that I witnessed last night, there's no MC or anyone telling people to get up on, third down. Like, the fans just do it naturally. So I hope that our fans can kind of catch on to that, because it's just everyone got loud on third down, but from both sides, all the fan bases, it was incredible. And hands down, like I said, even breaking the record, LSU fans traveling a long way compared to USC fans, where it felt like there were more LSU fans than USC fans, but it was such a fun time.
It looked like it was an awesome day from start to finish. How was the travel? The travel ended up being all right for you?
Oh yeah, it was nice. Got a chance to power nap, but that was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I'll post something on my you guys can see it on our social media and whatnot. I'll post more of just jumping on the red eye last night after watching Hawaii and UCLA, and then being able to touch down early morning here in Vegas and taking a power nap before we really got the party started and was able to go to that game yesterday. So it was fun. I would 10 out of 10. I recommend it. It was good. Hopefully, the only thing that would have made it better, obviously, is if Hawaii were able to win. But for the most part, 2 close games, competitive games, and at least one of the teams that we were rooting for won.
Overall, a pretty fun weekend, I hope, for you. A couple of last questions before we go to break. I know we're up against the clock. Did you wear your Caleb Williams jersey, and how's the guy who replaced him look, in your opinion, in Miller Moss?
Of course, I wore my Caleb Williams jersey. I had to represent Caleb Williams. It will probably be the only USC jersey I buy, because at least this one I can reuse it for hopefully as long as possible, where he's taking the Chicago Bears to glory again. But no, Miller Moss looked great. You saw obviously Jaden Mayava on the sideline, but no, kudos to, again, the Sporting Tribune's Arash Markazi for pointing out that USC could potentially be better offensively because now they can run Lincoln Riley's true offense, where Caleb Williams, generational talent, generational quarterback, he would have the tendency to kind of do his own thing, and he has the talent to do so, right? Like, I get it. He has the talent, he has the confidence, but what we saw from the USC offense, like, it looked like they were all on the same page. The running game was going, and it was really, really fun, competitive to watch. So that was part of the reason why I felt good about the little USC money line, because I'm going to just go with what Arash was able to tell us about this offense. Potentially, it's hard to say that it's better without Caleb Williams. I think that's fair, because, again, Caleb Williams, generational talent. But when in college, right, like, you can, without the top talent, you could still be successful if everyone buys in to the system. And with Lincoln Riley as a proven successful head coach, it was a really fun and dynamic offense to watch. And it was a fun game in general. But yeah, they look like they're going to be something. Definitely going to be better than UCLA. That's for sure, in my opinion.
I know that's music to our USC fans' ears. You can catch the USC Trojans on our airwaves, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com. Way past the clock. Got to go up to a break, but when we come back, we'll switch gears, talk some Hawaii high school football coming up next. Don't want to miss it. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on HSRN, and we'll be right back.
Flooded vehicles from recent hurricanes will be flooding the used car market, so buyer beware. If you're in the market for a used vehicle, be on the lookout for flood damage and make sure you have a qualified mechanic inspect it before you buy. The free VIN check service from the National Insurance Crime Bureau is a good place to start. Head over to nicb.org to check it out.
To report fraud, call us at 1-800-TEL-NICB. This is a public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Honey, did you fix the door yet?
Don't worry, the best and brightest are on it.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far.
Oh, not me, dear. I'm talking about Kama'aina Handyman. They have the highest customer service ratings with over 1,000 reviews, and they're voted best handyman service on Oahu.
Oh, Kama'aina Handyman. They fixed our neighbors' windows.
Yep, I went to kama'ainahandyman.com, and they can fix our cabinets and closet doors too.
Huh, and now I don't have to worry about you breaking anything.
Huh?
Oh, nothing.
Mahalo, Kama'aina Handyman.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Wake Up in the Den, live today and every weekday from 8 to 10 Hawaii time on 95.1 FM, AM 760, or on hawaiisportsradio.com. Today, joined by our YouTube audience as we go live every single Monday after Hawaii football games to break down all things Bows. Talked a lot of college football so far today, and we're going to continue the football conversation a little bit more. Just want to remind you once again, say appreciate you if you are tuning in. If you're hanging out on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, comment to get in on the conversation, and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest in Hawaii sports. As I mentioned before, from high school to the Bows to the pros, HawaiiSportsRadio.com is your one-stop shop for all our content as well. You can follow us on social media at High Sports Radio for updates as well. Something that we'll be updating later today are the high school football power rankings. After the weekend that was in Hawaii, some big matchups, some key wins, and some more status quo from the others. Michael, we'll talk. I'll put up the scoreboard on our YouTube, so our YouTube audience can now tune in and see that. And some of the results, not surprising per se, but very, very meaningful as you look at the newest, or as you wait for the newest version of the power rankings, looking at what happened on Friday. Waipahu falling to KS Kapalama 44-6. The number 8 Warriors putting up 44 points on the Marauders as they've continued to try and adjust this season after the graduation of a lot of talent. The big game, St. Louis beating Farrington 24-7 here in Kalihi. A really impressive second half by the Crusaders, powering them to victory. Looking on down, the Central Catholic Rams from the continent taking down Lelehua 35-15. Iolani beats Punahou 49-14. The Maui Sabres falling to KS Maui 38-10. Hilo to Kea'au 29-20. And Konawaina taking down, Konawaina winning 56-0. Michael, the main game that I want to bring up is that St. Louis game against Farrington, as that one a top 10 matchup, almost a top 5 matchup, as Farrington finally seeing themselves move up after last week's win. They're at number 4, have a big matchup, crossover versus ILH OIA, and they end up falling. What does a loss like that do for both sides involved in the power rankings going forward, as St. Louis comes up and finally gets one of those important, impressive wins against the top team here in Hawaii, and for Farrington, they lose, finally get a blemish on an previously unbeaten record?
Yeah, so for if we're talking about strictly about the game, for Farrington, we knew coming in that they were going to be missing some pieces. I know Kingston Samuelu kind of left the game last week that we did when they played Rancho Mirage, and then with a bruised shoulder, and I guess he played this game, but he also kind of had to leave with some with I think a sore back or something like that, Paul. I think you mentioned, but yeah, for St. Louis, I think one thing that for the brotherhood, not the brotherhood, the brotherhood, and the St. Louis fans and the alumni is that with Tupu Alualu, this is not the same St. Louis team of old. And what I mean by that is in their style of play. I think he made a comment that maybe raised some eyebrows when Tupu Alualu said, "Hey, I'm not here to be the Lee brothers, Ron and Cal Lee," right? With their, and you kind of see it with his offensive mindset where they're a much more balanced team. They're not that really pass happy teams you saw with guys like Timmy Chang, guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Chevin Cordero. And shout out Darnell Arsenal as well. He went to St. Louis. Taylor Kikavo, 16 rushes for I think 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's something you don't really see from a St. Louis squad where you have the running back kind of being that lead horse, and they're still kind of playing both quarterbacks, but they do have I think 2 players on the offensive line that are 3-star recruits, if not better. So I like what I'm seeing from St. Louis, and that's going to be something to see. For Farrington, they're probably going to drop to 7. Everybody below them, at least, didn't do anything. So they didn't really beat anybody of significance yet, So, yeah, they're probably going to drop to 7.
It's a tough loss for the Govs after what had been a really impressive first couple of weeks, or first few weeks to the year. And you mentioned Talon Kikava, who had himself an outstanding performance, really kind of announced himself as this stud running back for the Crusaders, and getting an opportunity to watch the game, he was unstoppable throughout the night. And for Farrington, it was a little bit of everything coming to a head, right? Zion Ziggy-Vea gets ejected in the first half. That comes up big and plays a massive role in the defense, allowing St. Louis to take over in that second half. And you mentioned Kingston Samuelu, who is as good a running back as there might be in the state of Hawaii right now in high school football. He did not play, and those absences loomed large for Farrington. Ku, you got an opportunity to chat with head coach Mike Lafaele, if I'm not mistaken, following this game. What was the vibe from Farrington's head man after what was, I'm sure, a pretty disappointing loss in the grand scheme of things?
It's funny that you asked the question that way, because it was giving me very much Paul Brecht vibes with the "I'm not worried" type of situation. And he did seem, he told me, so I got a chance to, I ran into him at the UH football game, and kind of nudged him a little bit, like, man, what happened in that game? And again, to echo Michael, like, St. Louis, obviously a quality team and improving, suffering really, really close losses to other quality football teams in Hawaii. But yeah, head coach Mike Lafaele basically, hey, you know what, this is probably the loss that they needed, and kind of thinking that, hey, this team with huge wins and starting, the season off 3-0 with those big wins, that they were starting to get a little bit like, all right, like getting a little chip on their shoulder. But at least this was a way, if there are any good losses, obviously this is not in like the state tournament or anything, so it was one that he felt like his team potentially needed to feel and experience. And also talked about the quarterback DJ Fa'avi just wasn't able to get his head entirely in the game. Just kind of the nerves took over a little bit, because they do have quality players, and as you guys mentioned, losing a few players in that game. But he doesn't seem worried at all. He feels like his team will get it together, and I will still double down on the fact that that game against Campbell come September 14th is going to be huge. And Campbell has had like a few weeks off, so we'll see if they can kind of what they bring to the table, considering that they will be on hiatus for such a long time. But yeah, head coach of the Farrington Governors, Mike Lafaele, again, doing the Paul Brecht, I'm not worried.
It spreads. I love hearing that. It's important to be positive after a loss like that, to understand that it's not the end of the world. And I'm glad that Coach Lafaele is taking that route, because he's right. Farrington doesn't have a lot to worry about in terms of in-house and what's going on with the Govs. What they do have to worry about is a brutal schedule coming on up, as it doesn't get any easier after playing St. Louis. You mentioned a matchup against Campbell. Kahuku also on the schedule for Farrington. Just plenty of challenges on the way for his squad. So hopefully for them, they're able to figure it on out. And when we come on back, as we're up against the clock, we'll switch gears back to UH, but finally we're going to step away from football, as the Rainbow Wahine, the volleyball squad, had a very impressive 2-0 weekend after a couple of really brutal starts to each of those matches. We'll hear what head coach Robin Anmo and a couple of players had to say after going 2-0 to start the season when we come back. Don't want to miss it. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on HSRN.
School sports are played by humans, coached by humans, and officiated by humans. So the next time you're sitting in the stands at a school athletic event, please remember this and maintain your humanity, especially when it comes to judging and critiquing athletes, coaches, and officials. Please show your fellow humans some respect. They'll appreciate your empathy.
This message presented by the HHSAA and the Hawaii Interscholastic Athletic Directors Association.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I lack a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is your home for Dallas Cowboys football. Hi, this is Jerry Recode. We'll bring you all the exciting NFL action each week. Dallas Cowboys football can be heard right here
on Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Go Cowboys!
Out here in the middle of these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on earth. That's how it feels when you're struggling with your mental health. But you don't have to feel alone. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, Ku'ulei Agbayani talking about a ton of football here on this Aloha Monday. And now, gonna switch gears on over to some Rainbow Wahine volleyball as the Wahine open the season 2-0 and kick off the year with a couple of impressive victories in the Hawaiian Airlines Wahine Volleyball Classic. Night number 1, a 3-2 victory over SMU after a nightmare first set. Hawaii stabilizes and comes back to win. We've talked so much about how this squad is so youthful and has to learn so much and relearn how to win and all of these things. And at the end of the day, they end up getting an impressive victory and one that will be good for their RPI as the season goes on. And what is a pretty difficult non-conference schedule for head coach Robin Amo's squad. And then this past Sunday improved it a little bit. They did the same exact thing, a 3-1 win, but that first set, a brutal loss where they just can't get a rhythm going. Michael, you were in-house for game number 1. The atmosphere for the Rainbow Wahine volleyball return, it looked like it was fun on TV. How did it feel in person?
I mean, there was definitely open seats in there, but it was good to have volleyball back. It was good to have everything in there. But yeah, that first set against SMU on Friday night, I was like, okay, is this how we're supposed to? Because we were picked second, I think, to finish in the Big West. So I was like, is SMU that good? I know they have money to recruit with NIL and all that, but that was kind of shaky. But and if we talk about play calling, I'm not going back to football, but like one thing I appreciate with Coach Robin on Friday night was that, hey, she went for it. She experimented with her lineup. I think she saw that early on. In that first hit, she's like, okay, we need to get Victoria Levy in there. Who, shout out to her, freshman. She's probably gonna get. I don't know if there's an award for her, but she deserved to be freshman of the week, if anything, if there's one in the Big West.
She was named to the all-tournament team for her efforts, to be fair.
Yeah, and then in that third set on Friday night, we lost, but Coach Robin, she's like, all right, we need to get more offensive firepower. So when Kate moves back or as Kate's in the front row, we're going to sub out their rotation. And they put Tyler Reese-Mane in there, and they had Jackie in the back row setting. And they almost put off that third set, but we saw that experimentation and how, hey, I know people commented about the lack of our roster number with 13, but in a way, it's like, hey, let's use our full roster to the extent. I think 11 players played on Friday night. I'm not sure about on Sunday, but yeah, that was good to see. And Coach Robin talks about her tunnel talks. I got to hear some of that tunnel talk after that first set, and I decided to go down another stairs in the hallway because I did not want to walk in on that. But yeah, and then. Yeah, I love this Wahine squad. So far, I've been to 2 matches, one in the spring and one in the fall, and both matches have been University of Hawaii wins, but it's been 5-setters, so I don't know if it's just me, but I was kind of happy that they beat San Diego. I know they were playing a back-to-back, but man, San Diego really tried to scout both teams on Friday night heavily. Like in that media area, I was like, Paul, you need to get here because, well, I mean, you didn't get there, but there was like 4 San Diego people in the media areas like trying to scout. I was like, really, guys? And so I'm glad you just won because they were trying to scout both teams really heavily. And I was like, you guys better, if you guys are going to do this, you guys better do something. But they didn't.
They did not.
UH came on. I think Kaylin definitely, she showed out. I do think in that first set with Tali Hakas coming in, I think that kind of messed with her vibe a little bit, with her flow a little bit, because she mentioned how she wasn't the most vocal player, but now she has to be. And she mentioned last year how, she maybe thought she had a good practice, and she thought, oh, I don't really need to put that much, not try as hard. And in that first set, I know with Tali, she brings sort of a veteran presence, and I mean she's talking on the court, which is something that you need. But I think that may have got into Kaylin a little bit and some of the players, because it's like, hey, you just showed up like less than 48 hours ago, and now you're kind of like talking like you know everything, and you haven't been in training camp with us. But tunnel talk happened. They figured it out, and Kaylin Alexander showed out. I think she had 28 kills on the first night on 66 swings, something like that. So that's very impressive. But yeah, I love this squad. They're gonna be fun. They're fun to root for because they're punching up a weight class, in my opinion, but it's fun to see because there's a lot of growth that's opening the doors for them.
One thing I think that is important to point out, where you talk about the youth and you talk about the inexperience, something perhaps a positive for this Rainbow Wahine team is they don't know what they don't know, which, yeah, they had a couple of poor first sets, and perhaps they needed those tunnel talks to resettle, but they also don't understand that they're supposed to just kind of pack it in after losing and getting blown out in first sets, and they didn't do that. They showed some grit, and they end up winning both of those matches. A couple of really impressive performances. You talk about Kaylin Allen, the Hawaiian Airlines Wahine Volleyball Classic. And she chatted with the media along with head coach Robin Amo and freshman Millie Sylvester, who also had herself an outstanding first couple of games for the Rainbow Wahine. Here's what they had to say following the 3-1 win over San Diego on Sunday.
Coach, congrats on the win. Maybe just start with these first two matches together as one, and just maybe, opening weekend, where just maybe 2 or 3 main things that stood out to you about the way you guys played.
Hopefully we can not do that in the first game every game.
Yes,
Are we?
please. Yeah.
What do you mean, yes, please? That's you guys, not me. I think the one big thing, I don't know, again, if a team is going to be, get their butts in the first set like that and then come back and, be a different team, like energy-wise, like skill-wise. Their fight that's going to be the whole season. I think Kate distributed a little bit better today versus the other one. Passing, our serve pass game, the first set was, I don't know. I'm all about what, Kaylin?
Not getting
beat short. Don't get beat short, and moving up in that. And then they're trying to like serve deep balls, and they're and all of a sudden now they're like missing it out of their game. So I think that helped too. They picked up the serve pass game. Yeah. Fight, offense spread, and serve pass.
For either of, I guess any of you guys, but maybe even from the player's perspective, how would you explain how those first sets here in these 2 matches kind of got away from you in that way? And then how do you explain being able to immediately turn it around in the second sets?
I think one thing that we need to do is learn what to do when we're uncomfortable. I think right now, since we are a young team, we're not used to like a team just going at us. So when that happens, we just kind of like tense up and like just hide, I guess. So I think a big thing for this season is just how are we going to deal with being uncomfortable? And then going off of that, I feel like when we do have those slow starts, we go back in the tunnel and we're like, this is not our team. Like, we're a young team, but that's not an excuse because we all have the skill to play better than that, and we're motivated to win on our home court and to just show the crowd something better than what we did. So we have a different energy and a different mindset, but we need to start that from the beginning.
Yeah, first set, and then with some of a few other rough patches, it seemed like you folks were hitting long a lot of muster. Is that adrenaline or what? Or?
Just trying to aim high. I think those are good mistakes. Staying aggressive, or not hitting in the block, trying to use it. So just using the ball.
Coach, after the first set on Friday, you mentioned you had a little bit of a tunnel talk with the team. Was there one of those again today, or did you approach it differently?
There was definitely a tunnel talk. Maybe I should tunnel talk them before the game.
Was there a second tunnel talk? Did you guys do it again after the third set?
No, we just went in and we had a talk.
So it was a talk in the tunnel, but it wasn't a tunnel talk.
Yeah. Tunnel talk is like, hey.
Miliana, just wanted to ask you, this is a quick journey for you from high school to college and stepping in right away. Kind of want to know, one, what were your emotions like Friday playing for the first time, and how was tonight maybe compared to Friday? Like, did you kind of just feel any calmer at all coming out for game number 2 in your career?
I was very, very nervous on Friday. I was crying during Hawai'i Pono'i because I thought it was just so special to be on the court and not in the crowd. And then that probably carried over. Very nervous. I was like shaking when we were in service seat. But that's out of the way, and I felt much more comfortable today. And I think we really emphasized the connection with the setter in the middle and getting up every ball. So that helped us flow better.
At the end of the day, you guys get 2 solid wins against teams that are going to go on and win a lot of matches. SMU is going to play against a lot of highly rated teams. So just from the, first off, like the RPI value and just some of that stuff, Robin, and then also just how good it feels to beat 2 teams that have really, really strong reputations in the way that you guys did. How do you leave this weekend right now?
How do you leave? You want to take that? No? Want me to take it?
I feel very proud. I think us having such a young and small squad, we used it as a factor for our fight and not as an excuse. So I think I'm just really proud of the whole team, because we all said it's gonna take every single person to come in and help this team win, and we did just that. Everyone's contributing. So I'm just so proud, and also I'm so proud of the freshies because there's so many freshmen right now contributing, and that is a lot to put on your plate. So yeah, I'm just so proud of everyone. Yeah, I think it also gives us a good feeling, we talked about it in the locker room, if we're playing and we're beating these teams right in the beginning of our season, and we're only going to grow, right? So I think it shows the potential that this young team has, and we're proud, and we're such a tight team sticking together. So yeah.
Coach, when they review tape from this match and the other night, what's going to be more important for them to look at, the first set, or to look at what you guys can do when you play together, and when you play well and you rise above that? Which is more important at this stage for them to see?
Okay, well, the game's over already. So right now, going back and watching video is just them and skills. What can we do better on the skill part, That part about losing the first set and whatnot, that's a learn, you can't show that on video, you know what I mean? It's a emotion thing on the court at the time. But the video is just gonna go back to what we can work on to get better.
Thank you.
Miliana, one quick one for you. When you were at UH Lab, did you ever get much opportunity to come across the street and play either in Clum or practice in Clum or anywhere else on campus?
Yeah, so I've been practicing in Clum since 7th grade. Yeah, and coming to the games my whole life. So yeah, from being in Calais.
For whoever would want to answer, what's the key in the second set? When it's 0-0 to turn the page after what happened in the first set for 2 straight matches?
It's just about mindset. Like, I think we need to just switch our mindset in the first set. Like, we have to expect teams to come out and want to beat us. And I think right now we're not doing that in the first set. So I think it's kind of like when we get to the second set, we have to like push even harder. And I guess that's what's driving us right now. But it should be like that from the start.
So our passing, we picked up our passing, which made us insist on more. That's the big key, and from the first set to the rest of the sets.
And that was Rainbow Wahine head coach Robin Amo and players Kaylin Alexander and Millie Sylvester following Hawaii's 3-1 victory over San Diego on Sunday. And Michael, those darn tunnel talks, man, they clearly got a little something to them as the Rainbow Wahine successful after 2 of them, 2-0. It's a 100% success rate. She's right, though. She might have to start the tunnel talks before the game instead of after the first set, you know?
Well, I think it's just nerves, you know. But again, it's a young team. They're kind of figuring it out and feeling out their opponents, right? Because again, with a young team and a team with not that much of a roster depth, like you pretty much need everybody on the court to play a full scrimmage when they're in practice. It's not like you have specialized players that can kind of help you game. It's not like they can have enough players to have like a scout team on the other side, right? And that's kind of a disadvantage because like we heard with the men's volleyball how they talk about the A side and the B side, and there's players on the B side that are pushing for playing time with Coach Charlie Wade's team. So I think that's kind of more what it is. I think they're just kind of feeling it out. And again, I want to give credit to Coach Robin Amo and her staff because even in that first set when they were kind of the first game when they were kind of losing it, she would go over to players and coach them up. I think one of the middle blockers, Jason Bamis, like when she was subbed out because she went to the back row, instead of where Robin was staying, she would go to that little area where they're standing and have a conversation with her. In that first set too on Friday night, I thought she was going to put Jackie in earlier because I saw her motion for Jackie to come to the bench, but that was more of just a coaching point to kind of point out what's not happening or what's happening on the floor so that when she was able to come in, she made an impact. So, again, this coaching staff, I know there's some criticism about them. I know I read some of the forums with Volley Talk and all that. And,
oh, God, save yourself.
I mean, it's not as toxic as like the football and the basketball forums because there's people in there that care and whatnot. But she deserves a lot of flowers this weekend for doing what they were able to pull off with a young squad. And again, Tali Hakas, who's in the starting lineup, wasn't on the team until like 2 days prior, if not less than that, for their first match. So they're figuring out on the fly, and I love that for them. I love that for the squad.
I really am excited to see how high the ceiling will end up being for this Rainbow Wahine squad. Once again, way past the clock. We'll be right back to close things out on Wake Up in the Den.
Here's the dream. Keep doing what you love. What drives you?
I'm Scarlett Johansson. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. You can join the movement to end hunger by donating, volunteering, and advocating. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council. Hey, Joe, I thought you were retired.
Living on a fixed income is tough. So here I am, an essential worker.
I know. I mean, food prices are going up every day. Thank goodness for benefitscheckup.org.
Benefits what?
benefitscheckup.org. It's a free website where people over 60 can find help to pay for food, medicine, even utilities. I got $1,200 a year in benefits. Maybe it can help you.
If you're involved in youth or high school sports, you need to know about Positive Coaching Alliance. PCA is a national nonprofit organization developing better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. For more information, visit positivecoach.org.
It's a
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome on back. It's Aloha Monday. It's Ku's birthday. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new week here. Thank you so much for joining us on Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, Ku'ulei Agbayani, enjoying our brand new day here in Kalihi while Ku is off enjoying, hopefully, her birthday in Las Vegas. Ku, I'm a little curious, and I'm thinking the beautiful people are too. Are you going to get a chance to enjoy your day today, your birthday today, or was that kind of the whole point of yesterday where you could celebrate and then travel a little more today? What's a plan for your, what did we decide it was, the 25th birthday today?
Yes, the 25th birthday for sure here in Las Vegas. First birthday celebrated in Las Vegas. It's a little bit of everything. I mean, what better way to start my birthday day than chatting to all the beautiful people and to you guys there back home in Hawaii. So mahalo to everyone who has wished me a happy birthday so far. Before we get out, though, I want to make sure I do say congratulations to Rainbow Wahine soccer head coach Michelle Nagamine, my former coach, as she tallied her 100th win as a college head coach. So I wanted to make sure I got that out of the way before we end here. But yeah, so today I'm finally get to go eat at this place called Bavette's. It's in Park MGM. It's one of my favorites steakhouse places here in Las Vegas. So I'm really, really excited. That's like what I wanted when everyone asked, like, what do you want to do for your birthday dinner? I'm like, we need to go to Bavette's and make a reservation, because every time I try to go last minute when I'm here, they're always packed or sold out or whatnot. I'm like, dang it, I need to go to Bavette. So that is what I'll enjoy. Obviously, we're going to go visit our friends at Circa either today or tomorrow before we fly out, because that's always a must-do as well, and say hi to them as you can watch UH football games there as well. To all of the people in Las Vegas that could be tuning in and listening to us, go check out a Circa Resort and Casino for your University of Hawaii football games, especially the ones that are on Spectrum specifically, because they are the only place that you can watch it in a sports book here in Las Vegas. But yeah, it's been a fun time so far. Like I said, I mean, I couldn't start off the birthday trip better than winning on USC. So I got to go and decide what I'm going to roll that the winnings over on now after we jump off the show. Whether I go with another underdog today in Boston College because Florida State didn't look that great last week, we'll see. So hopefully the winning continues, or we just put all the winnings on black and see how it goes.
Put it all on black for sure. It sounds like a fun day on the way. I'm glad you mentioned head coach Michelle Bud Nagamine's 100th career victory. Once again, congratulations to her, and congratulations to the Rainbow Wahine soccer team finally getting off that slide as they went through that scoring drought, right, for 4 straight games, couldn't find the back of the net, and finally they explode for 4 goals versus North Dakota State. So a little bit of an early birthday present for you, Ku, from your old head coach.
Oh, 100%. And we mentioned last week how that's kind of their emphasis that they focused on in practice, is trying to get the ball in the back of the net, and they did. And yeah, we're both celebrating. Coach Bud and I were she texted me this morning to wish me happy birthday as well, and I obviously congratulated her back because she's celebrating the 100 career wins again as a college head coach, going back to her days at HPU. And she actually just texted me back to Smoochy Smoothie. I love her so much. She is like the best.
She is the best. We love her here at the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, and for all the things that she does for us as well. Whenever she comes on, you can catch a few of her appearances with us, or at least her appearance with Ku'ulei Agbayani earlier this summer on our YouTube channel. Also, one more time, mahalo to all the people who have tuned in today as we've conversed about Hawaii football and Hawaii football now, and along with Rainbow Wahine volleyball, a ton of conversations throughout the day. Ku, I'm going to give you the last word as we got about a minute left here on your birthday. for the people back home, anything left to say after a full day of football chatter?
Just this season's going to be fun. I want to do a quick note on the Rainbow Wahine volleyball is that we have discussed making t-shirts that say Tunnel Talk. We even told Robin, and she's like, don't you guys dare do that, which means we even more have to do it. So we're
Tunnel
gonna
Talk
look
with
out
her
for
face.
possible t-shirts that say Tunnel Talk, and we'll just leave it out there. Exactly. So Tunnel Talk, maybe we'll get like a Craig Angelis caricature type of situation going on. But yes, again, congratulations and shout out to the Rainbow Wahine volleyball team as well. And again, thank you everyone for wishing me happy birthday so far.
Oh, cool. You've done it perfectly for us. Happy birthday to you, my friend. I hope you get to enjoy the rest of the day, but we got to go. So for Ku'ulei Agbayani, Michael Lascaro, I'm Paul Brecht. Thanks so much for hanging out. Bye.
Home of the Los Angeles Clippers, KGU AM K236CR is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on AM 760, 95.1 FM.